say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We thank you first and foremost for co-creating this interaction with us this day of your time, for allowing us to transmit this information to each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively. We thank you for your co-creation and the gift that you are giving to our civilization in allowing us to experience each and every one of you. Let us begin this part of the transmission, this continuation of the idea of the 9 levels of consciousness, by saying that we would like to clarify our clarification. As many of you now recognize by the diagrams that you hold in your hands, there is a little bit of a different order to the things than we initially discussed in the initial pre-recorded transmission. Allow us to explain this difference. The idea that we were discussing was primarily how the physical mind perceives the idea of the individual automatic mind and the collective automatic mind, with a continuation of the recognition that as the physical mind tends in your reality to think of thoughts as highest, of emotions as secondary, of beliefs as lower, it also continues that idea and assumes that the individual automatic mind and the collective automatic mind are lower still. So from the physical mind's typical point of view, as has existed on your planet for quite some time, it considers the individual automatic mind and the collective automatic mind to be the lowest levels, the 8th level and the 9th level. So the description of that as the 8th and 9th levels are from the perspective of the physical mind, as it tends to think of these things, including the beliefs and emotions, as being under, as being lower than the idea of the conscious mind. Look at the very definition you subscribe in that sense, or label the idea of the subconscious, sub meaning under. So in the idea we were expressing initially, we were simply describing more often than not how the physical mind actually sees these things, and thus how the physical mind experiences these things. Because as the physical mind labels such things as being lower, underneath, sub, shall we say, to the conscious mind, it thus then does create a shadow version of these things, a shadow reflection of these things in physical reality to reinforce its belief. Because all belief systems are self-perpetuating and are designed, are constructed to make it seem as if there is no other belief possible. So when the physical mind does lock on to a belief or an idea that the thought pattern, that the conscious mind is the highest level and that feelings in the subconscious are lower, and that beliefs in the unconscious are lower still, it will continue to assume that it must also go lower still to investigate or explore the idea of the individual connection to automatic mind, what you would call the themes that you chose to explore as an individual, and it assumes it must go lower still to discover what the collective agreements are. And thus then that is the experience that the physical mind has. But as you can see from the diagram in your hand, that is not actually the positions that these things occupy in their relation to one another when they are created. As we said, these things are created from the top down. So if you allow yourself some degree of perception with this, you will see that in reality, so to speak, going from the oversoul level down to the individual soul, and as we have indicated on the diagram, also synonymous to some degree with the word individual spirit, and we will explain the difference in a moment, thus continuing down into the creation of the reality and the world that harbors the higher mind, and thus going down in vibration to create the template level reality. The next level that is actually created is the collective level, because you must lay out the foundation of the game. You must lay out the game board before you can create the piece that plays on that board, to use what you would call perhaps a chess analogy. So the idea is that you must create the playing field first, and that is the level of collective agreements. Then you can start to describe what your individual agreement is within that collective, what your individual theme of exploration is on that game board, on that foundational framework that is represented by the collective level. Then, once you have identified that theme, once you have described that, once you have fashioned that on an individual basis, thus then do you continue downward to crystallize that idea of individuality into the threefold concept, the threefold prism of the personality, of the physical mind, starting again at the highest level with the beliefs, and thus then going down through the feeling level, the intuitive level, the intuition levels, and finally thus then to the lowest level that is actually created, the lowest vibrational frequency that is actually crystallized, which is the level you call thoughts. And thus then, as you can see on the physical diagram, the idea of the higher belief system, the middle emotional level, and the lower level of thoughts combine to form the physical personality that you can also refer to as the ego structure. Another name in that sense for the personality, not meaning positive or negative in either context, just the basic fundamental neutral ego structure whose job it is to keep you focused in the physical reality game. Thus then, by the behaviors exhibited by the personality, by the ego structure, does it thus then reflectively reveal what the thought patterns are that stem from the feeling level, that stem from the belief level, and back up to the individual automatic mind, the collective automatic mind, going into the template level that thus then connects to the higher mind and into the individual soul and spirit level and up to the oversoul level. Does this make sense? All right, now we can discuss this further when we get into the idea of questions and answers, but for now understand that this diagram is representative of how the levels are created from the top down, how they are actually physically crystallized, and their actual construction relationship to each other, while at the same time, from what your physical point of view has assumed, it would seem to be just the opposite. That thoughts are on the top, feelings are underneath that, beliefs are lower still, the individual automatic mind lower still, and the collective automatic mind the lowest of all. But that's the shadow reflection of the true construct which you now have in your hands, which represents the construction from the top down. Now, let us explain a little bit more about the idea of why the individual soul level also says spirit. They are almost the same thing, but not quite. Let us define it in this way. When the oversoul, as we say, splits itself, divides itself, vibrates itself into discrete souls, if you wish to use that term, it's up to you, doesn't matter. It creates an energy essence that is individualized to a certain extent, but doesn't really in any way represent the specific personality that it will become by lowering itself still into physical reality. It is like the idea of unfashioned clay. In that sense, it is relatively featureless. It has the true essence of the total being, but it doesn't really have the mark or the stamp of the idea called personality or individuality as a person. But after the soul allows itself to create the higher mind, the template level reality, and the personality structure of beliefs, emotions, and thoughts, in that sense, going down through after having done the idea of the collective automatic and the individual automatic, after it experiences physical reality, that soul, in a sense, is stamped with an impression of the personality, of the discrete and unique and distinct personality that soul experienced itself to be in its theme of exploration. Thus then, when that personality dies, when it goes back up into the higher levels and goes back to the individual soul level, it arrives back on that level as the individual spirit. The spirit being representative of the person you would recognize of having lived the life. So the idea is that then when people contact spirits of the dead, they are contacting the individual soul level. But the individual soul that is no longer simply the raw clay, but that which has been fired into the specific personality, stamped with the specific personality recognizable as the specific personality experience that it had in physical reality. And that's the difference between those two terms. So the individual soul level and the individual spirit level are the same as a level. But vibrationally, one starts out very raw and the other starts out very, in that sense, ends up very specifically taking with it all the experience it absorbed from the physical reality journey, from the physical reality experience. Does that make sense? All right. Thus then, that physical personality, having that experience, imprinting the soul with its spirit, thus then going back to that level, thus then the oversoul can thus then gain knowledge, gain experience from that spirit that has now been fashioned out of the raw clay of the individual soul that was broken off from the oversoul level. Does that make sense? So thus then you see this coming and going. Again, this is all somewhat euphemistic, since all of this in a sense is still taking place within the collective consciousness, within the consciousness, the greater consciousness that you are. It is all taking place within that. So this nomenclature of coming down and going up and all that are simply conveniences of translation in your language. Because as we have said many times, even the experience you call physical reality is just an experience. The experience is real, but physical reality does not really have any solidity unto itself apart from what your consciousness creates itself to experience. It is simply a reflection. As all levels are that are less than the one, it is simply a reflection of another aspect, another perspective, another point of view of the consciousness of all that is expressing itself in the unique way, the unique frequency, the unique window, the unique doorway, the unique vibration that you are created to be as an individual, split off from the total source of all that is and the one. Does that make sense? Are you sure? All right. So, allow yourselves thus then to take these diagrams and allow yourselves to ponder and let it sink in, as we said, so that it becomes not second nature but first nature to you. So that automatically when you begin to explore the idea, when you begin to know that it is important to get in touch with the beliefs, you will allow yourself to raise the frequency and not lower the frequency to do so. And in allowing yourself to do that, as we said, you'll become much more adept at receiving communication from the higher levels, because in a sense, from the physical reality level, from the thought pattern level, there really is only up. Even though you can create the shadow experience and make it seem as if you're going down to another place when you lower your vibration, in that sense, all you're doing is creating that repetitive cycle that simply keeps you focused in the limited physical reality perspective, the limited ego reality, and by doing it that way, by lowering your vibration to look for answers, by thinking you have to go down in consciousness to find out what you need to find out, you simply reinforce the idea of that physical ego structure, and you put so much burden on it that it starts to resist and starts to, in a sense, resent all of the responsibility you are heaping on it for doing the job of things that should be being done on higher levels, and that's what makes it kick over and snap into what you call the negative ego. So thus then, the idea of going down in vibration to look for answers actually generates the concept you call the negative ego, the resistant ego, the idea of that which knows it is being put upon far more than it was designed to handle, and in a sense, fights back. So the idea thus then, as it becomes caught up in all of these ideas, it cannot find a way out, because all you're feeding it are belief systems that say you have to go down, you have to go down, you have to go down. And as you find there is really nowhere to go, because that's just a shadow perspective of those lower levels that aren't really down there, you allow the ego to become more and more frustrated. You allow that feedback mechanism to amplify itself, magnify itself, compound on itself, because it keeps telling you there's nothing down there. I can't go. You keep saying, you go down there and you find out. You find out what I need to know. There's nothing down. You go down there. And finally, it will rebel. It will fight. It will become so frustrated by the orders it is being given that it will cease to function in its proper way. It will start to break down. It will become, in that sense, incapable of the communication that it was designed to communicate, to keep you focused in physical reality in a lighter way. And you will find thus then that the only way that you can repair that is to really truly thus then go up and find a way to let the ego know from the higher levels that it is loved, that it is cherished, that it is valued, that you can negotiate with it from a higher point of view, let it know it is part and parcel of the total being, and that the annihilation that it fears through change will not happen, that it will go with you, but that it will only be allowed to do its job, the job it was designed to do, was to simply keep you focused in the physical reality experience, because that's all the ego really is designed to do. It is not designed in any way, shape, or form, as we have said before, to conceive of things. That's the purview of the higher mind. It is only designed to experience what's happening. And if you give it the task of trying to figure out how things are happening and what's happening and seek those things out, find out where they are and what's going on down there in those subconscious levels, you will only push it to a place that doesn't really exist. And anytime you push against the wall, when there is really nothing beyond that wall, you add more energy for that thing that you're pushing against to spring back in your face in such a strong way that it will knock you over. It will, as you say, knock you for a loop. So, ease up on the physical personality. Do not demand of it that it do a job it is not designed to do. Always allow yourself to know that you are inviting the ego to go along with you up the ladder and up in vibration on this exciting journey of self-discovery of what you have created, your unique aspect of creation to be. And when you begin to truly do that in an automatic way, every day, every time, in every situation, and every circumstance, always going up to find out what the beliefs are, then you will find that more and more information will be trickling down from the higher mind through the conduit of imagination, through the idea of the template level, through the idea of the collective automatic, through the idea of the individual automatic, and into those levels that construct the personality, and into the beliefs, and make them so much easier to shift and so much easier to change and so much easier to define in ways that are in alignment with who you prefer to be. Does that make sense? Again, you can look at this in some way, shape, or form as the idea of the creation of a game of chess where you have to lay out the board, and then you have to define the concept of what particular piece you will be playing the part of. And thus then, when you create the chess piece, let us say, just for example, in that sense, it is what you call the knight, you allow yourself thus then with the belief to define what material you'll be making out of. That's the foundation. And with the emotions, you'll be defining exactly what the texture of that material shall be, smooth, rough. And with the idea of the thoughts, you'll be defining exactly what shape that chess piece should be. It should look like this. And thus then, once you have done that, it will have the ability to take the actions. In other words, it will have the behavior that it needs to have in the game. It will move in the squares according to how it has been defined, according to the theme you wish to explore, and it will interact with all the other pieces in the appropriate manner for which it was designed. So it really is as simple as understanding it in that way, if that helps by analogy. Do you understand? All right then. Thank you. And please understand that it is not necessarily meant in any negative way, should you find yourself using this chess analogy, to think of yourself as a pawn. It is just a term. Pawns are very important in the game of chess and can, in the right circumstances, checkmate the king. So allow yourself to understand that you can equalize the board in terms of the idea of what each of those pieces does, because each of you is a unique piece, and cherish the abilities and the material and the textures and the shapes out of which you have fashioned the idea of your particular game piece. Knowing that when you are fully aligned with how the board has been laid out and what the concept of your piece is and the material from which you've created it and the texture that you've given it and the shape that you've given it, that it will have the correct behavior. It will automatically move as it needs to move on the game board. It will interact with all the other pieces as it needs to interact in perfect harmony and synchronicity going through that particular game. And you will allow yourself to have a very enjoyable game that will be a very profound learning experience. And thus then creating the idea, fashioning the idea, imprinting the idea of the spirit upon the individual soul, that the oversoul can thus then relate to and experience from and grow from and expand from, and thus be more capable and even more capable of splitting off into more souls to become spirits. In that sense, having journeyed through the experience of physical reality in the way we have just laid out. Does that make sense? All right. Well then, with that understanding in mind, my little pawns, knights, kings and queens, bishops and rooks, we may open up this dialogue, if you wish, to questions and answers for those whose names have been drawn. And do not worry, there will be another opportunity if we get through these to draw more names for more interaction later on in this transmission. Let us begin. Is the first chess piece upon the board?
Good day, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you. I have a question about appearances.
Appearances.
And the superficiality of appearances that I seem to get caught up in, and
choose.
That I choose to get caught up
Thank
in.
you.
It seems to be the collective agreement in the world I live in.
It has become something of an agreement, but it does not have to be. Again, if you are aware of the fact that it has been created as an experience within the collective agreement, then you are also equally aware of the fact that you can opt out of that particular part of the agreement, yes?
Well, that's why I'm here, because I feel like I have judgments that I would like to get rid of.
Well, how do they serve you to have them?
They keep me separate from people.
And how does that serve you? What do you fear about not being separate?
So this is about fear.
Almost always.
Yeah.
Because remember, the idea is that when you have a negative belief, the negative belief will generate fear, because all emotions stem from beliefs and definitions. So if you find that you have some negative definition, it's going to generate the idea of that fear, and the fear is there to let you know that you have a negative belief so you can find out what it is and change it if you actually truly know that it doesn't serve you. But if you hold on to it, then you're actually saying you have a belief that it does serve you somehow. Not that it necessarily actually does, but you have a belief that it does, which is the only reason you would hold on to something you say you don't prefer. Is that you actually have, in what you call your unconscious level, an idea that it does serve you, and so you hold on to it and you keep reliving it. So you have to find out how you're defining this idea, how you're defining your relationship to other people circumstances and situations that would make it seem to your benefit to hold on to something you say you don't prefer, because that's the only reason you would hold on to something you say you don't prefer, is that you make it seem to be beneficial. And that's done by defining it as beneficial because of perhaps a fear of the opposite. So to use your fear in a positive way, go fully into the fear and ask yourself, what do I imagine is the worst possible thing I'm afraid will happen if I in fact stop doing this behavior? And the answer is, what's the worst possible thing you fear will happen if you stop doing those surface appearance judgments?
That I'll get stuck
In what?
In situations I don't want to be in.
I see. Do you understand, first and foremost, of course, that the idea of such surface appearance judgments are simply projections of self-judgments?
In theory, yes.
Oh, in practice?
Maybe 50% of the time. I'm
All
working
of
on
the
it.
time.
I'm working on it.
I know.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, they are all about the idea of how you view yourself in relation to creation. Thus then, what judgments are you heaping upon yourself and finding yourself wanting?
Right.
Because you see, the only reason you'd be heaping the judgments on others to keep yourself separate is because you're afraid that if you actually interact, you'll find something out about yourself you don't want to find out. Not because that thing is actually true, but you believe it is, you fear it is. So you keep your distance through the idea of judgment, of surface appearance, so you will never have to face the fact that you yourself have a belief that you may not be worth interacting with.
Right.
You see how that works?
Yes.
Very simple, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, if you understand that that's not really empirically true, then you would not hold on to that idea. You would not have to project those ideas because you obviously are worth interacting with. Believe me, if you weren't, we wouldn't be interacting with you.
Right.
And believe me, if you weren't worthy of interaction, really, you wouldn't exist. Because the creation doesn't create mistakes in that sense. It doesn't create things that don't belong. It doesn't create things that are unworthy. That can't happen. So if you exist, it obviously means you are worthy to exist or you wouldn't. Because in order for you to exist, creation must have known that you needed to exist in order for all that is to really be all that is. You understand that?
Yes.
Therefore, stop arguing with creation. Stop saying, I am unworthy.
Right.
If that were true, you wouldn't exist and you wouldn't be capable of saying, I am unworthy. That's the paradox. If you can say, I'm unworthy, you must be worthy, or you wouldn't exist to be able to say that.
Right. So either way, we're worthy.
You cannot be anything else.
Yes.
Now it's just a matter of getting in touch with ideas and beliefs that you may have bought into that don't really serve you, because you see, again, when you truly allow yourself to rise up, raise your vibration, and go to the level of the belief systems, you will then discover that when you identify the belief that you've been holding on to that doesn't align with your true self, the moment you identify it, it will automatically appear nonsensical and illogical because it doesn't belong to you. You pick this belief up about yourself somewhere along the line, growing up in your society, and you probably picked it up from your parents, from your society, from your friends, from somewhere else, and you believed it, you bought into it. But now you're exploring the idea that it doesn't fit quite right, it doesn't feel quite right. You know you're uncomfortable with it, but you don't exactly know how to take it off. The idea to recognize is that once you raise your vibration and identify what the actual belief is, as we just described for you to some degree, you will realize that once you identify it, it makes no sense. And the reason it makes no sense is because it doesn't belong to you. It came from someone else. It's someone else's belief that you're running around with. You're carrying someone else's belief. So please don't be a belief thief. Let go of things that don't belong to you. You understand?
Yes.
Is this helping you?
Yeah. Are we going to talk about how to do that?
Well, in a sense, I just told you.
Okay.
The
Yes.
idea is to recognize that this must come behavior. Behavior, go back down the list. You have the diagram, you have the list. Look at the list. What you're describing is what? Behavior, yes?
Yes.
Behavior comes from
Beliefs.
your thoughts,
Yes.
your emotions, your beliefs, first of all. The belief you have creates the feeling you have creates the thought, all three together, the way you create them creates your behavior. So all you have to do is follow the line back up. If I am exhibiting this behavior, I am having the thoughts that go with it. Where do the thoughts come from? The thoughts come from feelings I'm having. Where do the feelings come from? They come from beliefs I'm having. What must I believe to be true in order to be behaving this way? That's the question. Sit with it quietly, knowing there is an answer, and you will be given the answer. You will see the answer if you're willing to see the answer, if you're not afraid of seeing the answer. If you are afraid of seeing the answer, find out what belief you're holding on to that makes you afraid to see the answer that would help you change the belief, because that has to be coming from another belief, yes?
Yes.
Therefore, you have exactly the road you need to walk, exactly the path you need to retrace in order to allow yourself to find out what that belief is and let it go by recognizing, once you identify it, that it doesn't belong to you. Do you hold on to things that don't belong to you when you recognize they don't belong to you?
No.
Then that's all it takes. You see, there's no mysterious process involved. Once you have identified the belief as not being in alignment with your true self, that means it doesn't belong to you. And once you recognize it doesn't belong to you, you drop it. It's gone. There's no other special additional process required. It's just gone. Do you understand?
Yes.
Does this help?
Yes.
Are you willing to believe it can be this simple?
I believe that once I get to that core thing and the core belief of being worthy, that everything will unravel and it will be straightforward.
All right, then whatever journey you create, whatever process you create in finally realizing what that core belief is your particular unique process. Love it, cherish it as you experience it. Don't judge it to be less than it should be. Otherwise, all you'll be doing is perpetuating the same level of judgment.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes.
Is this helping you?
Yes.
Then we thank you for your sharing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
I have two questions.
Oh, all right.
The first one is about mastermind groups.
Mastermind groups.
Yes.
Define.
It's, well, what I'd like to do is put together a group of about 4 or 5 people
Yes.
to come together to bring our collective energy towards our individual goals.
Sounds like fun. What's stopping you from doing it?
Well, nothing's stopping me. there's one more person that I want to invite to the group.
Oh, all right.
But I'm wondering if you have any format or
Nope.
outline that you think would be
Nope.
helpful.
Nope. Whatever comes in your imagination is key to your vibration. Whatever seems most exciting, most fun, most passion fulfilling is the way for you to go about it. You understand?
Yes.
It's that simple.
Okay, great.
Yes. And?
Okay, question number 2.
Yes.
So in terms of appearances, there's a certain way that I like for my body to look.
Oh, all right.
And this is just continuing with what, you just said, but I'd like it more specific to
Yes.
this situation.
Yes.
So I have a format, I have a trainer and
All right.
I'm supposed to do what she says, but then there are moments where I don't want to do it.
Oh, all right.
What is that?
Well, it can be resistance, and it also can simply be the recognition that there are certain times you don't necessarily need to do it that way. You have to learn to tell the difference. You have to learn to have enough discernment to tell when you are experiencing a choice from excitement or choosing something from anxiety. That's the difference you have to be able to discern. Yes?
Do you think the same thing can be chosen from either anxiety or
Absolutely.
joy?
Every single thing in physical reality can serve double duty. Put positive meaning into it, you'll get a positive effect out of it. Put a negative meaning into the very same thing, you'll get a negative effect out of it. You can choose the very same thing from excitement or the very same thing from anxiety. It just depends upon the circumstances and the moment, how you have set them up for yourself, what the situation is, how you have chosen to play it out, how you've set the stage for yourself as to what it actually means in terms of what meaning you've put into it, and thus then why you're choosing it. But you have to be capable of being aware of why you're making your choices. That's the discernment you need to have. And if you're really honest with yourselves, you can always tell the difference between when you're making a choice from true excitement and when you're making a choice from anxiety, can't you?
Sure.
Sure you can. So, just be honest with yourselves and you'll know the difference. Make sense?
Yes, and if it's something that I've committed to do,
Yes.
I guess the secret would be to bring myself into alignment with this thing that I've committed to do before doing it.
Either that, or make a new agreement with the person you've made the commitment with and explain that you finally recognize that you made the commitment, if such is the case, from a place of anxiety instead of from a place of excitement, if that's the case. And then make a new agreement, make a new arrangement, because the first commitment in that sense is to be your true self. And that's a commitment you're making to them as well, to be your true self. You follow?
I do. I think that on one hand, there's the excitement of having, my body look exactly the way I want it to look, and
Yes.
it's fun.
Yes.
But then on the other hand, there's this anxiety of, what the woman before was talking about, like appearance and
Yes.
getting stressed that way. So
Yes.
it's kind of like both sides.
I understand, but you see, of course, you're setting up your own paradox, because very often when you allow yourself to create stress and anxiety about how you look, you actually don't allow yourself to be in the flow of the vibration that would actually allow you to behave in such a way that would automatically allow you to choose to do the things that would get your body to look the way you want it to. Did that make sense?
I think I'll have to get the recording.
All right. In other words, when you're truly following your joy, you will automatically want to do certain things. They will not seem to be chores. Do you understand? You will automatically gravitate to certain things that will automatically allow you to begin to do whatever you need to do to allow the body to function in its optimal state. It's only the anxiety about such things that actually makes it more difficult for you to actually behave in the way that you need to behave to allow the body to find its optimum state.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yes.
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Yes.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
I'm fairly new to your teachings, but I've recently had some wonderful experiences with your idea that abundance is not money. Abundance is having the resources to do what you want to do when you want to do them.
Yes, abundance is not necessarily money.
Right.
We are not discounting that because it exists on your planet as one of the ways abundance can manifest itself, but it's not the only way.
Yeah. And I was resistant when I first heard that, but I
All right.
eased myself into it and thought, well, okay, I'll go along with that.
Oh, all right.
And things have been happening. It's like, whoa,
Yes,
it's really
whoa.
fun. In fact, that's why I am here today.
All right, thank you.
So I have a question about creativity.
Yes,
I'm afraid you're just going to tell me to sit down and meditate and go up. Okay.
you are afraid that I will say that?
Yes, because I feel like in some way
Do you
I've
understand
done
that your fear creates your reality just as strongly as your joy does?
Lay it on me. I know.
All right.
I know. And I have some kind of resistance about creativity that I don't quite get. And I feel like...
Can you be more specific?
Okay, as a writer. Although I feel like if I went and became an artist, I would do the same thing. There's a point at which I think, oh man, I know it's common to writers and artists, but there are some writers who don't have that kind of resistance.
So what?
I
What's
wanna
that got
be
to do
one-
with you?
I want to be that kind of writer.
Then allow yourself to be whatever kind of writer you are now, because that's how they became that kind of writer. By simply allowing whatever they were at any given moment to be exactly what that needed to be at that moment. Thus, by not invalidating what kind of writer they are now, they're capable of using that moment as a stepping stone to become a different kind of writer. If you invalidate the kind of writer you are now, you remove the stepping stone and cannot take the next step.
Wow. So I become okay with struggling?
It is not that you are okay with struggling. You don't have to prefer the idea of struggling. What we are saying is that when you become okay with who you are now, at whatever level you're at, you will actually cease to experience struggle.
I like that.
Very creatively stated.
Okay.
It is not about preferring struggle. It is about knowing and acknowledging that whatever level you're at now is perfect for the level you're at. It's perfectly that level. And thus then, it's not about comparing yourself or measuring yourself against some ideal that you are not yet as good as. It's making that difference that's driving you crazy and creating the struggle. Stop creating such a difference between who you are now in a negative way and who you will eventually become. Yes, of course you will be different, but you'll just be a different. You won't be in that sense a better different. You'll just be a different. You understand?
Thank you. Yes, that was very clear, and I understood the whole idea of feeling unworthy in a new way.
What a surprise.
How you just explained that.
Yes.
Is that the same idea also with struggles with my body? That I see people who have
It's
no
usually
struggles
all
with their
related. It's usually
Okay.
all related. Remember, all pain is resistance to the natural self.
Okay.
So,
And the natural self is who I am right at this
the
moment?
natural self is who you are, is whatever is represented, whatever contains the highest amount of passion, joy, love, excitement. Excitement is the body's physical translation of the vibratory energy that represents your true natural core self. It's your compass needle pointing to your magnetic north. Follow it.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
will fall into place.
Okay.
Does that help?
Very much. Thank you.
Do you feel more creative?
No. No,
Why not?
I feel more excited.
Is that not the beginning of creativity?
Yes.
Well, then, do you feel more creative?
No, because I get that excitement a lot. And then I get
But you are
feeling
labeling
creative,
it
and then I
as
stop
something
it.
other than what you wish to label it as.
Say that
Why
again.
not label the excitement as an increase and an expansion of your creative abilities?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Oh, thank you.
All
Why
right.
label the idea of the excitement you feel as something other than what you would prefer to label it as? Because it's only going to take its cue from what you label it to be. It doesn't have built-in meaning. You can decide anytime you feel excited, that must mean you're becoming more creatively inspired. You can decide that. And when you decide that, you will start to experience that. But you won't experience it if you don't label it that way. It's up
Okay.
to you to be creative enough to create the labels you prefer that will help you become more creative.
I understand what you're saying.
But?
I have felt that bit, but because I'm afraid that after I feel the
Yes.
excitement and get creative and do
Yes.
that, then I will stop.
All right, very good. Thank you for being honest enough to recognize you have a fear.
Yes.
So what is the worst possible thing you fear will happen if, in fact, you allow yourself to be creative? That it will stop and stop forever?
Yes.
All right. Now, why would you choose to experience that?
So then
I
I
will,
won't have
before
to
you
do
answer,
anything?
before you answer why you might choose to experience the idea of forever stopping being creative, I would like to just quietly remind you that that's an actually very creative thing to choose. To imagine that you might stop being creative forever is very creative as an idea. So you see, you're even using creativity to make it seem as if you might lose your creativity, but it takes creativity to think of that. To think that you could lose creativity forever is a very creative idea. So you're using creativity even to create that. You just have to start looking at it that way. It's like we said when the person was talking about the idea of abundance. You can define the idea of having lack as being a lack of abundance, or you can define the idea of lack as having an abundance of lack. Which means you still have abundance. It's just that you have a kind of abundance you don't prefer. And so it's not about learning to be abundant. It's just learning to be the kind of abundant you prefer. So it's not about you not being creative every moment, because you are creative every moment. If you weren't creative every moment, every second, without fail, you wouldn't be having any kind of an experiential reality at all, because you're creating your reality every moment. So the idea is to understand that even if you experience the idea of what you call lack of creativity, you're using creativity to create that experience, so you are being creative anyway. You can't get away from it. You are made in the image of the Creator. You're a co-creator. You can do nothing but create. It's your nature. Even if you create the appearance that you're not creative, the only way you could do that is by being an infinitely creative being. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Is this sinking in a little bit more?
It is sinking in a little bit more.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Is
actually
the butt
feeling
getting
very
any
creative.
smaller at all?
Yes, it is. I'm feeling very, very, very creative right now.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know why I even want to do all this, though, because
Do all what?
when
Do
I
all
think
what?
of
Do
stopping
all
it
what?
forever, it's
Do
like
all what?
be a writer.
You don't know why. Do you have to?
No, because when I stop thinking I have to, well, or if I don't think I have to, if I just drop the whole idea, then after a while I think, oh man, I want to be a writer. So there's sort of, and I've done a lot of writing. I am a writer.
How about?
But it's this
How
constant.
about? Instead of spending so much time thinking you want to be a writer, how about you just write if you're excited to write? And just let the label take care of itself. Because if you just write because you're excited to write, someone else will look at you and say, oh, you must be a writer. You don't have to think about wanting to be a writer. All you have to do is write when you're moved to write.
Yeah.
So again, don't create that separation.
Okay.
The act is the thing. Just write when you're moved to write. And when you're writing, you're a writer. Period.
When I'm not, I'm not. I can have them both.
Yes, you can do anything. You shift your personality many times a day. At a moment, you might be a writer. At another moment, you might be something else. That's all right. They will all fall under the umbrella of your highest excitement, or at least expressions of your highest excitement, whatever that is. They'll all fall under that umbrella in some way, shape, or form, as long as everything you choose is some expression of your excitement or your passion. It's up to you. But you don't have to define yourself by such narrow terms.
Great.
You follow?
Yes.
All right. And remember, in many ways, part of being, as you say on your planet, a writer is just spending a lot of time sitting and musing and imagining.
Right.
That's also the work of writing. It doesn't mean you actually have to be clicking away on your keyboard or writing on your paper.
Right.
You understand?
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
Even when you are doing something else, you can still know that what you are is a writer doing that thing. And when you're writing, you can be something else doing some writing. You can blend these things, merge these things as simply different expressions of an overall umbrella excitement of expressing who you really are in all the ways that you can.
Okay.
So relax your definitions, relax your labels. Don't pigeonhole yourself into such narrow definitions.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Have fun.
Okay.
Have fun.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Tadeo.
Nania.
It's about time now for us to do the meditation so that we stay on schedule.
All right, we will do that, and we will pick up with the remaining questions when we resume this transmission. Allow yourselves to relax. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Take another deep breath in and let it out. Take a third deep breath in and hold it. Hold it. Hold it and blow it out. Allow yourself to continue to breathe in a relaxed and easy manner, letting go of what you call the cares of the day. Let your thoughts drift. Let your feelings melt. Let your mind dissolve. Relax your beliefs. You are at peace. You are at home. You are one. As you breathe, easily, deeply, comfortably, lovingly, feel the warm vibration of the love of all that is coursing through your veins, through your heart, through your body, through your mind, through your spirit, and through your soul. Your world is getting smaller. What touches one touches all. And as many different kinds of transformations and transitions now occur and take place upon your planet, as many different kinds of shifts are experienced in a multitude of ways, both positive and negative in your terms, allow yourself to know you are one family. And while we will be focusing on the idea of the area of your planet you call Japan, for this healing meditation, for the allowance of shifting to take place in a positive way in that area of your world, know that this is also part and parcel of the healing of your entire world, and the ability to shift to parallel realities that are far more representative of the world you say you prefer, every single moment, in every single way. So use this focus in this meditation today while focusing on the idea of sending healing love, healing energy, loving light to the people in the area called Japan. Know that it is also a vibration that courses out from your heart in a radiating bubble at the speed of light, encompassing and engulfing the entire world, even though your heart's focus may be today on Japan. All centers are connected through vortices, portholes, all connected as one. And the energy you send to them will relay around your planet like a series of vibrant bells and chimes, ringing the true vibration of healing and health, light and love, and of inspiration and imagination to attract that information necessary to shift and change the reality in that area into something that will benefit all of the people of your planet, and not just what you call the humans, but all the people, the animals, the plants, the rocks, all beings of all kinds vibrate in harmony with this chiming resonance that you feel within you today, that you send forth with every heartbeat at the speed of light, encompassing each other, engulfing each other. as you send it through the planetary chakra of Mount Fuji in Japan to spread out to the world and all the other vortices and all the other chakras, to send a heartbeat of healing light to that area on your planet so that all may shift according to the highest possible vibration of love, the highest possible vibration of creation, for the benefit of all concerned, for those who wish and are willing to partake and harmonize with this vibration of light and love in that area and in every area of your world. But allow yourself now to focus your vibration on the area you call Japan and feel your heart open up to them. For they have allowed themselves to act as a representation and a reflection of the kind of changes that can occur on your planet very swiftly, and give you the opportunity and provide for you the opportunity to learn to label and define these things in a more positive way so that you can reap the benefit of such redefinition. They have been brave and bold enough to allow themselves to experience this great shift of consciousness in the way that may sometimes be representative of the fears that they hold on to, but nevertheless thus then take upon themselves that experience for you, so that you may not necessarily need to experience it in the same physical way that they have allowed themselves to do. Out of love, they do this. In light, they do this. From inspiration and imagination, they do this. And thus then you become with them one family, one mind, one heart, one soul, one spirit. You are all in this moment Japanese in vibration. Watashi wa Nihonjin. Watashi wa Nihonjin. Watashi wa Nihonjin. You are Japanese. Anata wa Nihonjin. Anata wa Nihonjin. Anata wa Nihonjin. Be one with the family of all beings on your planet, focusing their attention, their love, their light, their inspiration and imagination on shifting to parallel realities, parallel worlds, parallel experiences in which already exists all the things that are far more representative of what you prefer, all the experiences, all the beings that are already reflective of who you truly are. Shift through the chakra of Mount Fuji, of Fujiyama, to all other chakras on the planet, to balance them out, all other vortices on the planet, to aid and assist with your love and your light here today in this way. You are one family, one world, one moment in time and space, one spirit, one heart, one mind, one body, one vibration coursing through you, beating from you, expanding outward like a crystalline shell of light, a crystalline sphere expanding from your heart at the speed of light. Wave after wave after wave of energy to allow them and you and everyone to shift and shift and shift in harmony with that wave, in harmony with that vibration. Know that you are felt. Know that you are loved. Know that you are made of all that is. And as you share of yourself in this way, this day of your time, know that you are putting out the vibration and frequency of healing light, so that all who may so choose, so that all who may so prefer, may match and harmonize with that vibration, with that frequency, and so raise themselves up into the light of a parallel reality of brightness and promise. The promise that is your true natural selves. Take a deep breath in, and with every breath out, know that you are sending that wave of energy out into the world, to Japan and every other place that is in harmony with that frequency. Take another deep breath in and let it out, and know that it is amplifying and magnifying that vibration in Japan and across the world. Take another deep breath in and hold it, and hold it, and hold it. And as you blow it out, you are blowing a new reality into the world, blowing a new wind into the sails that allow you to cross the sea in the ship that will reach the shores of your fellow family in Japan. And as you disembark and set your feet upon that shore, you are welcomed as family, you greet them as family, and you know that you are one family. A family floating in the unconditional love forever and ever of all that is. Allow yourselves now to relax. Let this seep in, and know that you are always and forever in touch with any being on your planet you so desire to be in touch with vibrationally. Open up your imagination and allow yourselves to feel the connections to all. And always send love and light upon those connections, so that it also may be reflected to all and back to you 1,000-fold in love and light, the love and light of infinite creation. For you are eternal beings in an adventure of a lifetime. Our unconditional love to you all. You may now slowly come back to whatever reality you have chosen to shift to, for we are there with you in this new parallel world. And we now invite you to take a short break and allow yourselves to replenish.
Okay, so I think we're ready to go now, and just want to go ahead and turn this over to Darryl, and also to thank Darryl for being this wonderful thank you, Darryl, for being such an incredible window into your own consciousness, our consciousness, Bashar's consciousness.
I don't have time to be in my own body.
You are a busy guy. So anyway, yes, we really appreciate this amazing ability that you have and the wonderful information that you bring through. So thank you, Darryl, and we'll turn it over to you and Bashar now.
Thank you, Eve.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Why are you all here today? I'm just going to go right in and let Bashar carry on and have a good time, and I'll see you after. All right?